Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I actually have another true crime video for you guys. This is about a very interesting case that I've been following for a really long time. I saw it on, I think it must have been like Investigation Discovery in high school. A really interesting case. It actually took place the year I was born, back in 1993. I think you guys will find it very interesting. Particularly, one of the reasons I find it most interesting is the after debate. That there's a lot of controversy and different opinions, and I want to know what you guys think. And so towards the end of this video, I really want to encourage you guys to express your thoughts and opinions on this whole thing down below. But you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, so let's go ahead and get started. So today we're talking about the tragic murder of a very young boy named Derrick Robie.
A little boy full of energy, Derrick loved animals and playing practical jokes.
So let's go back to 1993, summer of 1993 actually. And Derrick was a very well-liked boy around his town. People knew him. He was just well, first of all, such a cute kid, right? He was good at sports, he was good in school, liked by teachers, had a lot of friends. Was just a real gem for a kid as far as what I have read about him. His parents are named Dale and Doreen Robie, and he also had a little brother who was only 18 months at the time. His name is Dalton. He actually lived in a small town in New York called Savona, and it was a very small community, really close-knit community as well. And this is back in 93, so things were quite different than they are today. So it was August 2nd of 1993 in the morning. Derrick's mom, Doreen, actually took him to a summer camp in their community. Every single day she walked him there, even though it was really close to their house. Like, it was a dead-end street, so there was no street crossing that needed to be done or any major streets or anything. It's just literally one way straight to the summer camp that he went to. And his mom walked him to it every day because he was 4 years and 10 months old at the time. His birthday was in October, so he would have been 5 years old.
Usually I would walk him out to the end of the driveway.
And it's so weird because it was just about all the right things happened for this to take place. Like, odd circumstances. It was just the perfect and wrong timing. Anyway, that morning, Derrick's brother Dalton was throwing a fit, was, you know, being a baby. He was 18 months old, and you know how babies can be.
And that morning, Dalton was very fussy.
So he was giving his mom a hard time. They were already running late for this camp. So it was 9:15 a.m. and Derrick actually asked his mom, said, "Don't worry about it, take care of the baby, I'm gonna walk to camp by myself." And she said that was fine, and she decided to let him do it.
And Derrick says, "It's okay, Mom, I'll go by myself." He gave me a kiss, and I said, "I love you." And he says, "I love you, Mom," and he went hopping off the sidewalk.
Now, keep in mind, this, like I said, was a straight shot, really not a complicated way to send your kid or a dangerous way.
So he has a block, only a block to go.
Mm-hmm.
No streets to cross.
No, it was a dead-end street. It's the first time I've ever let him go anywhere alone.
And when I think about all the places I was walking when I was a kid, I definitely like walked down to our pool in our neighborhood or up the street to parks. I think I was quite a bit older than 4 years and 10 months though. I don't think my parents would have let me go at that point. This was early 90s, and it wasn't as common for kids to just get kidnapped. I feel like people just didn't have the understanding that it could really happen anywhere and to anyone, even in the safest of communities. So you can't really judge Doreen. I'm sure it's like the worst move she's ever made. I'm sure she regrets it terribly. You know, people ridicule her about letting him walk. When you think about it, I'm sure there are thousands of parents who have let their kids done similar things. It's not like this was a terrible parenting move. It was a mistake because Derrick unfortunately would die within 5 minutes of leaving the house. Later that day, Doreen came to pick her son up from camp, and he was not there. No one had ever seen him. There was an empty field. All the other kids got picked up, and he was gone. No one saw him come that day or anything, so obviously right away they called the police. And it wasn't very long after that police actually found Derrick's body bludgeoned, beaten to death, sodomized, laying in a field very close to the summer camp he was supposed to be at.
Neighbors watched in disbelief as their quiet street was turned into a crime scene. Derrick Robie was beaten to death.
Autopsy reports show he died from blows to the head. State and local investigators have no suspects.
The body of Derrick Robie was found in a small patch of woods, midway between the park where he was headed and his home. The evidence showed that Derrick was lured from the sidewalk and strangled. The killer's identity was then still unknown.
Obviously, his parents were devastated. I mean, how could you not be? It was extremely upsetting for the whole community. A lot of people knew the Robies, they knew Derrick. People were just really shocked that this could happen to a little kid like Derrick in their neighborhood that they thought was so safe. First, everyone thought that this was some type of stranger that just lured him off on his way off the street, took him in his car and did this to him. It's gotta be some horrible serial killer or kidnapper. And it was like that for a few days, actually. There was one boy, though, that claimed to have seen Derrick that day, and his name is Eric Smith. This is Eric Smith at the time in 1993. Eric was 13 at the time, and his story was that he was walking back from the summer camp actually that morning as Derrick was walking there. If you remember, Derrick was a little late, and Eric was actually already being sent home for bad behavior that day.
Eric Smith walked into the police command center to see if he could be of help in solving the crime.
Looking right at me, he's kind of hunched over a little bit, and he's very, very upbeat, very happy. He likes the fact that he's being talked to.
At first, Eric denied seeing Derrick Robie, but then he abruptly changed his story.
It was right across the street from the open field, and that's where I saw Derrick. And when he said that, he about knocked me off the chair.
He claimed that he saw him with his lunchbox, and he was wearing a white shirt and described him and everything.
So we asked him, well, what was he wearing? And he went on, he said he had a white t-shirt on, and he had this lunch bag in his hand.
But as investigators kept continuing to talk to him, they started noticing some serious weird flags, and this went on for a couple of days. His whole story wasn't making any sense. He actually went out and showed them where he was standing when he saw Derrick.
Investigators pushed Eric to pinpoint where he last saw Derrick.
And that's when he started to get emotional. His voice started cracking.
And it didn't even make sense. Like, it wouldn't have been possible for him to see him from where he said he was. It just wasn't adding up.
Investigators asked Eric to get his bike and show them where he was when he saw Derrick Robie.
Okay, why don't you go up here and you start?
Investigator Wood was there. And as you can see from this police videotape, Eric looks calm as can be.
During the reenactment, I would have to say he enjoyed it. He was having a good time.
But it quickly became obvious that Eric could not have seen all that he described from the distance he claimed to be.
Also asking really weird things of his family members, like just bizarre questions like about DNA and how they catch someone and what happens if a kid did it.
Eric asked me what would happen if it turned out to be a kid. I said, I seriously think they need some psychiatric help.
When they found Derrick, they actually found a smashed banana from his lunchbox, and whoever had killed him had poured Kool-Aid from his lunchbox all over his wounds and everything.
Eric asked to take a break, and his father brought him a glass of Kool-Aid.
Just as we get back into it again about where he'd seen Derrick again, he grabs the red Kool-Aid and just throws it on the ground.
And there was a neighbor who actually had known Eric for a while and had Eric over to her house that day with a couple of other kids, and she decided to do an experiment. She went to the grocery store and got sundae ingredients. Listen to what she did.
They were friends of the Smith family, and Eric spent nearly every night at their home after the murder.
We think it's a kid, and they don't like bananas because whoever killed Derrick had squashed the banana. So I went up to the store and I bought ice cream and nuts and syrup and bananas, and I brought it home and, asked them if they wanted sundaes. Well, they all did. Eric was going to have nuts and syrup, but he didn't want bananas. Don't you like bananas, Eric? I said, I thought every kid liked bananas. No, I don't like bananas. I called Nancy and I said, Eric doesn't like bananas and I'm scared.
So as you probably guessed, soon after that, Eric Smith actually confessed that he killed Derrick Robie.
Put his head down, and he brings his fist up, and his fists were vibrating a little bit, and he goes, you think I killed him, don't you?
I was there when my grandson confessed. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. I killed that little boy. It's still hard to believe. You think you know somebody. Something must have happened to him.
13-year-old Eric Smith was arraigned in village court this morning.
And then, boom. You see this little freckle-faced, red-haired kid with glasses. That's the monster that did it? It can't be.
When you hear the story of what happened, it's so heartbreaking. So basically what had happened is Eric went through a lot of shit in his life.
Eric's blowing bubbles on the porch.
I never thought that he could do that. I was with him every day, all day. And that one day that everything happened, I wasn't with him.
Eric was abused, claims that he was abused by his stepfather. He was just abused in his family. He was bullied badly. He had almost no friends. People kind of knew that he didn't have friends. He had these red hair, freckles, glasses, just got totally picked on.
he was known not to have any friends. He would be seen just riding his bike alone around Savona all the time by himself.
Like, we never wanted to ride the bus home because who's the next person gonna mess with him? What are they gonna do today? The one day that I do remember is one of the older kids took his book bag and just dumped all of his books and everything out of it. Then yelled at him and told him to pick it up.
You're a mean-looking dude, you know that?
Eric had been teased about his appearance.
He'd come home often on the bus
kept
crying.
Picking at him, no matter what he said or did.
And making fun of his
picking at him, throw things at him, wouldn't
his
stop,
ears.
call him names.
I just told him that he has to learn to stick up for himself.
Did it work?
No.
His family talks about how he had anger problems. In fact, his dad actually explains that he told Eric to punch things when he got angry to deal with his anger, and really wasn't giving him any solid help with his anger issues and problems that he was having.
And when Eric asked for help with anger, his father did not seem equipped to give it to him.
He was really upset and he was crunching his fists and shaking. I said, Dad, I need help. He said, yes, I do. I want to hurt something. When I got angry, when I was your age, I grabbed the bag in our barn and I just started beating on it.
And when he was kicked out of the camp so early in the morning, like when it just started, he was angry. He didn't know how to deal with his anger, and his dad literally taught him to punch things. In fact, one time he punched a tree so hard that he was bleeding.
And I looked down and I noticed his knuckles and his hands were kind of skinned up and bloody. And I asked him what happened, and he said I hit the tree.
He didn't know what to do with his anger, and he was so mad that he decided to lure little Derrick. Remember, he's 13. Derrick's just shy of 5. So he lured him off of the track. He said that he had a shortcut to get there. Somehow took him into the field area, and he actually strangled him with a stick, brutally beat his body with rocks, sodomized him with a stick, which if you don't know what sodomizing is, look it up because it's not a good thing. He said that he panicked and he wanted to make sure that he was dead so that he wouldn't be able to get in trouble. Derrick wouldn't be able to tell on him. So he used the stick to make sure his heart had stopped. So just very odd thinking. So obviously we're dealing with someone who's mentally ill, right? No kid just randomly kills another kid for no reason. There's obviously an issue here. And people were shocked. Like when it came out that, okay, so a 13-year-old kid killed Derrick, people freaked out. I mean, it was like the craziest thing. Like no one could believe it. It made national news at this point. This is how it really became a famous story, because how do you deal with that? A 13-year-old that killed another child for no reason. He didn't even know Derrick. It was literally just bad timing. Derrick just happened to be there and he was mad. The community had really gathered behind the Robies at the time. They, put on their funeral. They paid for it. It was paid for by the community. Friends and family were cooking them things, baking them things, being there for them as she had to go through this. And not only did they have to go through their child's death, but they had to go through years of press and interviews, which his mom says that she likes for his story to get out there. So it's good that we're talking about this, but I mean, it must just be so hard. Their lives will never be the same. We still have the fact that Eric is a kid, and he's a kid who has mental problems, who has been abused, who has anger management issues, and he was not getting any help for them. His dad would say some really horrible things to them. His sister claims that she was sexually abused by their stepfather and thinks that Eric was as well.
Stacy Hebner was sexually abused by their stepfather.
He molested me.
But a lot of the abuse Eric refuses to talk about even to this day.
I'd want to know if he was molested. There had to have been something bothering him.
Still, there was absolutely no evidence that Ted Smith or anyone else sexually abused Eric.
He was also held back in school. He had a lot of developmental issues, and one of the main reasons that this was taken so seriously and people really thought he must be really messed up is that Eric actually killed a cat, a neighbor's cat, suffocated it with a bag, held it over its head until it died, and killed his neighbor's cat. And as a lot of you probably know, if you're obsessed with serial killers like I am, that's so weird to say, I'm such a freak. I'm really interested in serial killers though. One of my favorite shows ever is Dexter, and one thing that repeatedly they see with serial killers is they kill animals as children. It's like a major warning sign. Does this mean that he's a natural born killer? Should he ever be given the chance to redeem himself and be let back into society? That's where the controversy comes in, and where this really becomes interesting is, should he be released on parole? Eric was tried as an adult, which is crazy. He was only 13 at the time, and he was sentenced to 9 years to life with the possibility of parole. At first, he was in juvenile prison until 2001, where he was moved to adult Real County prison. So a lot different. Obviously, it's been over 9 years. He actually gets a parole meeting every 2 years. And he has now been denied parole 8 times. He's had 8 parole meetings. And when you listen to how he has changed, he has matured a lot. The people that actually work directly with him say that he's made incredible improvements. He's become a good person. In fact, Eric himself talks about how he would like to help children that are struggling with anger issues or in a similar situation and need help.
I'd be an asset to society.
Finally, Smith makes the case that he is uniquely qualified to counsel bullied children and sees himself one day as a forensic psychologist doing research on children who kill.
Very remorseful for what he did.
I know my actions have caused a terrible loss in the Robie family, and for that I'm truly sorry. I would switch places with Derrick and endure all the pain I've caused him.
He says it was just a bad moment. He can't even believe what he was doing at the time.
Unfortunately, at 13, I viewed life in a very dark manner. I couldn't carry the pain and anguish that I felt anymore.
And I just want to point out that I think a lot of people, it's easy to judge something like this, and it's horrible. I mean, it's terrible what he did. It's so ridiculously unfair. But when you were a kid, did you ever do something that you honestly look back at it and you're like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, what was I doing that is so bizarre, that was so unlike me? I don't even barely remember it. I was almost blacked out at the time. I mean, not literally, but you know what I mean. It happened to me when I was a kid. I actually, this is so embarrassing. I think I did. I told this story on YouTube a couple years ago. So some of you have been following me for a really long time already know about this. But when I was a kid, I was in piano lessons and I really didn't like my piano teacher. And I don't know what came over for me, but I had to go to the bathroom, and these lessons were in her house. And I went into her bathroom, and I was really young at the time. I don't remember exactly how young. I think like 3rd, 4th grade maybe. I went into her bathroom and put foaming soap in all of her cactuses, like killed her cactuses that were in there. I took lipstick out of her mirror and like wrote on the mirror with it. Like all these stupid things that you obviously are gonna get caught doing. And then I just walked out. And it was so unlike me because I honestly like really didn't do much as a kid. That was probably the worst thing I ever did as a kid. But I just look back at that and I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? Like, why, what? It was almost like an out of body experience for me. And I think a lot of people can look back at times in their childhood where they just did something really bizarre that they would never do normally. So think of it like that. I personally believe in forgiveness. I believe that people can rehab themselves and become better. And because he was a child with all of this shit in his life, really just a bad life, no friends, bullied, abused by his family, that maybe it's possible for him to have changed after years of help, mental health help, and just being out of his home. Like I said though, he's been denied parole 8 times now. I think the next time he will be there is in 2018. He'll get to go through the parole meeting again. Every time that this comes around though, the people in that area write to the parole board and ask them not to release him, and especially his parents. They are absolutely against the idea of him ever being released. And it's hard for me to even really have an opinion about this because I didn't have a child get murdered for no reason by some 13-year-old. So I can't even imagine how they feel. Personally, I really believe that he should be given a chance. Maybe next time they can look at it and possibly consider letting him live a life, because life in prison is worse than death. Life in prison is terrible. And like I said, I'm a believer in forgiveness. I'm a believer in rehab and people being able to change, especially from the way that they were as a kid. There's a lot of room for growth. But that's just my opinion. I know some of you are probably like, no, he killed someone, he needs to be in jail his whole life. And honestly, I respect your opinion. I also respect the family and the fact that they believe he needs to still be in prison. But there's a lot of people that believe he should be set free on parole. It's like, it's such a tough thing, because it's like, how do you judge someone who went through such terrible things as a kid, was treated so badly, and asked for help with his anger issues and was not given any help? So it's like, who's really responsible here? Is it Eric? Is it his parents? There's a lot of people in the community that say he can't be let out because they're scared to live near him. They're scared that he would kill again, that once a serial killer, always a serial killer, and that he's signs of being a serial killer because he killed pets, which I see that too. So, I mean, it's hard to say. I see both sides. I just kind of happen to side with the forgiveness side. I don't know, that's just, I really feel like people should be given a second chance, especially after all the time that he's served and has tried to earn it for this long. I don't think it's even fair that he was tried as an adult. So should he have a chance to maybe live a life once again and do good for the world, or should he stay in prison for the rest of his life? I want to know what you guys think, and I want to know why in the comments below. I feel so badly for the Robie family. I can't imagine what they have been through. I have such sympathy for them. And Derrick, wow, I mean, what an adorable kid. Sounds like he was an amazing kid. Probably would have had a great life. I want to know what you guys think about this case. What are your opinions on the whole thing? But that's it for me today, guys. I hope you're having a good day. If you like this video and you want to see more true crime stories, please give this video a thumbs up, as well as subscribe if you're not already. And that's it for me today, guys. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you next time.